Hi, hello. Here's a video with some ideas that I was thinking about earlier that pertain to drawing and how drawing should be a slave to composition and design. Now, drawing, obviously, when you think of drawing, it should encompass these things. So a good drawing is going to have good design and composition. If not, you can't really have a good drawing. But I'm talking in the sense of creating volumes that read well, you know, that respect certain rules. For instance, perspective. It's not wonky or anything. So you could have good drawing per se, but I mean, you could just not have good composition and design, and this happens a lot. You see, like certain art being just, it's just a pinup, it's just a character or these concepts. It's just these characters floating in just a black or white void, and the perspective is not really at play here. Well, it is. It could be the way you pose a character. It's hard to not have certain I don't know, like perspective, some composition involved. Even if the character is holding a sword or a staff or something, there's always going to be composition. But what I mean, like in for instance, in this painting that I did here, the boat is aligned in such a way that it will benefit the overall drawing, and then the skeleton is holding the spears, which are pointing at the center, the focus point of the image. So in this sense, the drawing of each separate skeleton is benefiting the overall composition, and not just I'm not just drawing a skeleton on the boat or the skeleton is holding the spear. So these things, the drawing of each separate part in the illustration is the drawing of each separate skeleton, and even the background, or the gravestones in the background, the water, the ripples in the water, or the boat, and the position of the mariner on the boat and what he's holding. All these things are being enslaved to serve a greater purpose, that it's just not a drawing. Thinking about this led me to another point which I've thought about previously. Maybe it's not too well thought out, but that the drawing can't be too precise, I feel like. So this happens with this is a mistake I think I made in the past, and some people make in the past, which is you use rulers and you use perspective, and that ends up being just a crutch, which is not really a crutch, because it doesn't, if you need an actual crutch to walk, you can actually walk. But I think if you use 3D or guides rulers, or I mean 3D rulers, or in software, in Clip Studio Paint, for instance, or actual rulers, your drawing will be too tight. And this is something that Harold Speed talked about in his book, The Practice and Science of Drawing, which you need a ditter in play. Like you need like a car engine. Like the parts can't be too tight. If not, there's not enough play. So you need this sort of room so that you have a good drawing and it makes sense and it's believable, but you also need a bit of play so that all the interchanging parts actually work like they would in a car engine, for instance. So in this illustration, this is something I've been using. I'm not using rulers, and that's fine, and things will look a bit wonky, but it's fine. The boat is not perfect, but what is perfect? I mean, if you wanted to be certain things need to be perfect in society. I don't think, if you're going to build a railroad, or a car engine again, or a building, yes, you don't want the building to be wonky, probably, or you wouldn't want your car tires to be wonky. So let's leave that for those things. And when it comes to art and illustration, I think it's just way more fun to look at that things are just organic, especially doing traditional illustration. I just want those things. If I'm using a brush, I want the wonkiness that comes with a brush, because I don't know how to use a brush. A master maybe wouldn't be so noticeable, but I think there's a lot of richness, and there's a lot of juice in those things. So you want those little, they're mistakes, but you just leave it in, and that makes it for a more fun painting to look at, and the drawing is enriched. Furthermore, I think if you want something to be tight, as in you want it to be good and you want it to be accurate, it perhaps is lighting. Lighting is very important, and for things to be believable, lighting does need to be somewhat accurate. Now, I don't think it needs to be incredibly accurate. You can make do, but I think even that, in depicting light, it needs to be done also in a way that, because you're drawing it, in a way that's also enslaved to the overall composition. But even in lighting, which is the same as for drawing, like it doesn't make sense to me that you want it to be accurate, so accurate that it rivals a photo, or even real life, or even a 3D model. Those things are mathematically, especially 3D models, they're mathematically perfect. Like, why would you bother painting if that's available? If you would like that, you can go make something, a 3D render of a great city or a cathedral or something, and then that's that. But if you're going to pick up pencils and a brush and paint, you should want it to be crooked. That makes no sense. Photorealism, it's about photos, it's about images, it's not about whatever is portrayed in photorealistic paintings is a photograph. It's not the thing that is being portrayed, and people often overlook that. But I think the job for the illustrator is the complete opposite of that. We're portraying something fantastical, something that most times doesn't even exist. And I mean, especially in my case, doing fantasy, you want a certain degree of realism so that those things feel somewhat real, but not too much. If not, it just becomes boring, and it becomes just common and vulgar. And we have that too much in our daily lives. That's why fantasy, and fantastical things exist, and folk tales and all this. So that's a job that needs to be done in this way, I believe. And getting back to how every part of the drawing is important, and it's important that they work together and not just a single part. I can't just sit here and draw one of the skeletons incredibly well and neglect the other parts. They all need to come together. It's like a note on an instrument that's being played. Like, the goal here is the overall harmony of the composition, or that's, I think, what a composition is. All these parts working together to build an harmony. And for paintings, I guess that you would describe that as mood. You would describe that as a vibe, as the youngsters would say. It's a vibe, bro. So it's not useful to illustrators if you have all these parts and they're not communicating with one another. If they're not being enslaved to this great purpose, to create harmony and to create mood. All right, that's the video. I have nothing else to say. Thanks for watching this. If you have any questions about the illustration, I realize I didn't talk about the illustration in the video specifically, but if you have any questions, do let me know. I'll try to do another video about that. And yeah, I'll let this play out. Thanks.